Me and that God not seeing eye to eye. My parents are telling me I gotta believe. I wasn't believing. Hey God, thanks very much, appreciate it. My parents think you're doing a good job. I don't. I'm gonna try it on my own for a little bit. My name's Anthony, and God has set me apart to give you my testimony. So apparently I was born with an illness. Back then we had something called Dr. Spock, and it was a little book that kind of told parents how you were supposed to handle, your kids being sick and all this kind of stuff. So Dr. Spock said, hey, because I had projectile vomiting, I had constant like diarrhea stuff, whatever, as an infant, as a newborn, right? Dr. Spock said, hey, change the laundry detergent, change the way the baby sleeps, change the formula, whatever. It was never about go see the doctor. Anyway, as time went on, I missed my second grade year because of this illness. I missed my fifth grade year, or good portions of it. By the time I was in the eighth grade, the summer between my eighth grade and freshman year, they finally had taken me to a doctor that said that I had severe ulcerative colitis. I was gonna go see a surgeon at UCLA, and they was gonna open me up and tell me how bad was this ulcerative colitis. Now, I want to take you back a little bit because some of the things that was happening before that were this. My parents were praying the rosary. I'm Sicilian, so I'm born into a Catholic family, right? We're Sicilian and Puerto Rican. So born into a Catholic family, my parents are praying the rosary all the time, anointing me with holy water and whatever, praying at my bed all the time, and in fact, they even took me to these supposed healing ladies, and they was rubbing oil and eggs on my belly and all this kind of stuff. And you know what? I'll be honest, it didn't work, surprisingly, right? But I just kept thinking, why can't I see a doctor? Why can't I see a doctor? But they, the church was always saying, you gotta pray, you gotta pray. And so I'm gonna tell you this, at some point, I kind of got over the whole God idea. This fellow wasn't working for me. This guy, the Catholic Church was trying, and I'm not trying to knock the Catholic Church or whatever. I'm just saying, for me personally, the guy wasn't working. You know what I mean? This is who I'm supposed to entrust. My parents, apparently loved this guy, and they were entrusting my life and my care to him, but it wasn't working out. I kept getting sicker. The initial surgery that they told my parents was going to be somewhere between 3 hours and 5 hours turned out to be almost 15 hours long. Because when they opened me up, they found out that I also had colon cancer. So anyway, this all turned out to be, I don't know, from 1983 to 1991, I ended up having 15 surgeries for this, right? Again, me and that God not seeing eye to eye. My parents are telling me I gotta believe, blah, 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 blah. I wasn't believing. I was molested when I was in the hospital. I had some other things go on. So, what I did after that, I missed high school because I was having all these surgeries. Hey God, thanks very much, appreciate it. My parents think you're doing a good job. I don't. I'm gonna try it on my own for a little bit, right? So I ran amok for the next, I don't even know how long. What I'm gonna tell you this is, should my God today be willing, in 30 days, I'll have 19 years sober. And that's only because of him. Because I'll tell you what, after all that, I ran amok thinking I was bulletproof because I beat cancer. You know what I mean? I'm just a kid running around, I can do whatever, and I did that. I come from a Sicilian background. I was gonna do the best I can, you know what I mean? I was gonna make my Sicilian family proud of me, and I got into a lifestyle that wasn't conducive of anything good, right? I ran into all kinds of problems. I ran into, one of the things I do today, upon awakening, I turn my will and my life over to God, right? A God that I understand. Because when I got into recovery in 2006, I had been struggling with recovery from 1989 up until 2006. And when I got here, I discovered that I could choose a God of my understanding. I didn't have to believe in that Catholic God no more. I didn't have to believe in the fire, brimstone, if you don't do this, you're going to hell kind of stuff. I found Christ. I found Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ loves me. Jesus Christ loves me. And you know what I found out about that? All that stuff I went through, he didn't give that to me. What he gave me was the endurance to see it through so that today I could speak to people with cancer. so I could speak to children with cancer, so I could be a ray of hope for people. He gave me recovery so I could talk to people in recovery about what Christ can do for you, what God can do for you, a God of your understanding. Because you know what I understand today? I ain't in charge. I don't live for me. Today I've got MS, I've got lupus, I have COPD, I've had a left shoulder replacement, a left hip replacement. I got all kinds of stuff going on. Borderline diabetic all the time, right? And again, God has not given me these things. He's allowed me these experiences. You know, people ask me all the time, hey, you need to tell your story. It's not my story to tell. They're my experiences that I can express to you, but it's His story. Christ sees me through this. He's my strength. He's my hope. I don't do this by myself. Left up to my own devices, I end up locked up. I end up in places I don't want to be. Some of the darkest places that even Hollywood can't make up these places. You know what I'm talking about? All I can say is that what I would like to testify today is that I know today my life is not my own. I don't live for Anthony anymore. I live for my Lord, my Jesus Christ. That's who I live for, because that's what works for me today. And that I'm allowed to pass on. I don't have any knowledge. The only knowledge I have is whatever He gives me. You know, I used to say this very sarcastically. People would tell me, hey, God will never give you more than you can handle. And I used to just tell them, well, that's because He thinks I'm an overachiever. Not so much. You know why? God never does give you more than you can handle, because you're not meant to handle it. You're supposed to give it to Him. You give it to Him as quickly as you can, and it's done. I don't got to worry about it. He takes all the responsibility. He takes all the weight. And it tells me in the book. Now, I'm not one of these Bible thumpers. I don't know the word for word and all this kind of stuff. What I know is the message. I'm a living representation of the message. And the message is this. When I'm not in charge and I seek His help and I seek His advice and I seek His way, it all works out. And it leaves me with a proud feeling and just an elated spirit. It leaves me feeling light, and that's how I like to live. So what I'm going to tell you is, again, remember I said, I'm Sicilian, right? So, my idol growing up is Lucky Luciano. I don't know if you know anything about Lucky Luciano, but Lucky Luciano, Al Capone, these are the guys that I was going to go ahead and be like, because I didn't have nothing else. I didn't get to go to high school that much. My high school experience was all messed up, So what I used to do, in fact, this is how I kind of I wasn't able to go to school all the time. Well, I would go hang out with some of the local derelicts. I still had to go for walks. I still had to do my exercise. I still had to go, outside and all this kind of stuff. So I would meet with them. Why? Because I was always looking for something. There was something missing in me. I wear this shirt on purpose today, right? Frankenstein, right? That's what I felt like God made me. I felt like God made me this broken kid, this broken human being, this broken piece. That Catholic God, I thought He made me like a Frankenstein. Today I understand that God did make me in His image, and I have a spirit that lives inside of me, and I'm a human being, and He allows me the experiences that I have. So being on the streets, I ignored all of that, and it never ended up anywhere good. And I only had 911 prayers. Oh, God, help me. Oh, my God, here I go again. Oh, my God, help me this. Today, they're 411 prayers. Hey, God, what do you want me to do? How should I do this? You know what I mean? Big difference, big difference. But that's because at some point, God allowed me to break down enough. He chased me that whole time. Today I understand. He wasn't mad at me. He didn't give me childhood cancer. He didn't cause all this stuff that went on in my life, but He allowed me to experience it. Why? So I could be sitting here today to give a testimony for Him and not for me. Call me, I'll fix your life. I ain't fixing nobody's life. I barely ever know what's good for me, let alone anybody else. I gotta look for whatever He's willing to do in me and through me. Ulcerative colitis, colon cancer, I bled a lot. I'm gonna tell you, here's the thing with why my mother and I, it was really bad. So I told you I missed a lot of the second grade, my fifth grade, my seventh grade year. I remember I had a lot of stomach pain. I would be nauseous a lot as well. And then I would bleed. Every time I went to the bathroom, I would bleed. And I'd be in there for a long time. And I used to tell my ma, hey, Ma, you know, because she'd be like, why do you think he's lying? Go to the bathroom. Hey, I'm bleeding in there. And she's like, no, I think you're in there, you're pushing too hard, you're trying to avoid doing chores, you're trying to not be a part of the family, you're just, you know, wasting time. Okay, if you think so. She's like, well, then you gotta show me. And I never wanted to do it. I was embarrassed, right? I mean, here I am just filling a toilet full of blood, and it was horrible. And I didn't have nobody to tell. I didn't know what to do about that. And then I finally tell my mom, I finally show her, and the day I show her, she almost passed out in the bathroom. And now I'm feeling guilty, make my mom pass out, and I'm bleeding all over the place. And this is just horrible. I got nowhere to turn. I got nobody to, you know what I mean? Because once again, that God that they were praying to, he wasn't helping me out. I just felt like I didn't have any friend. I didn't have anybody to confide on. So I learned how to lie. I learned how to manipulate. I learned how to do all this other crazy stuff just to get by. And today I don't gotta do that. Today I know it's okay to just be me because he made me perfectly. Like I said, I've been struggling with trying to get clean and sober since 1989. My daughter was born 1989. And so I said, you know what, I gotta figure this out. I can't keep living this life. I'm dealing dope, I'm doing, you know, drinking all the time, I'm doing crazy things. Out all night, you know, whatever the case might be. And I said, I gotta figure out a different way of living. And I initially tried to get sober and straighten my life out for my daughter, for, you know, to be a better dad, without seeking God help or Jesus help or anybody else's help, maybe just AA a little bit, but I didn't really understand the purpose of that. So I went back and forth for multiple years. And at one point I actually stuck around in AA in recovery for about 8 years. And my mother came down with cancer. I had a battle in me. I had a battle in me that said, hey, you remember how she treated you when you were sick? It's about time you show her. You remember when she locked you, put you in your room, and gave you meditation yoga books and said, hey, there's kids in third world countries healing themselves, you're not trying hard enough. I thought about doing that with her. Hey, Ma, you gotta meditate, you know what I mean? But I knew better. There, I was 8.5 years sober. I still had no actual God. I would claim to have a higher power. I didn't really know what that meant. I really didn't know what that meant. There was no entity that I was speaking to. There was nobody I would just say that because that was part of what you were supposed to do in recovery, right? I couldn't handle the cognitive dissonance between the recovery part of me that knew I needed to be a good son, and then the former me that was like, I'm gonna show her what it was like. I went and got loaded. While I was out getting loaded, Christ showed up. Christ showed up, and he reminded me of the 8 years that I had and how good they had been and everything that went well, because I was surrounded by a bunch of recovery people that all believed in a power greater than themselves. And I simply needed to identify that. And when I decided to come back, because that was a better way of life, I started looking at that like, what does it mean, a power greater than myself? And I started thinking about that Catholic God, and then I started hanging around a lot of Christians, and they seemed to be some of the happiest people. And I thought, well, maybe there's something I could grasp onto there. You know what I mean? This power greater than myself. What does that mean? And honestly, I just started getting into a little bit of the Word, and it started making sense to me. And it started feeling good. And I was able to just kind of surrender to that, you know? And I thought, well, let me do this for a little while. And it just began to grow. And you know what I realized? Oh my God, part of my problem was ego. And I realized today that sometimes for me, ego means edging God out. And that's kind of what I was doing. I wasn't allowing him to get in here and work and do, you know, take care of business inside of me. So I was like, hey, wait a minute. If my God, if Jesus can be so humble to not force his will upon me and force his way into my life, but just follow me all these years and chase me down and come after me and then show me a better way of life and introduce me to himself, I could be humble enough to accept that. Who am I? I'm not greater than God. I'm not greater than Christ. You know, and I just began to surround myself with more Christian people, more Jesus-like people, not God-like. I believe God is the Father and Christ is the Son. I believe in God now, but I don't believe in that same God. I don't have to believe in the God that I grew up with. I don't have to believe in my parents' God. It's an individual relationship. It's about having an actual relationship with Christ, with God. I never understood that. I thought he was in that building every Sunday that we had to go to. I thought I had to dress up nice to go see the guy, you know what I mean? And yet he wasn't doing anything for me. I didn't get, that was the part that was like so confusing to me. But when I finally, he reached out to me. He reached out to me. And when I finally was willing to say, okay, let's do this, he showed me that I could pray to him any time of the day, any time of the night. I can wear anything I want to or not. I could be in a shower and say, hey. It didn't matter because he was always there. And he's there because he loves me. And he wants for me. He doesn't want anything from me, only for me. And so that's how I choose to live today. With the guys that I sponsor and people that I talk to and my friends and my family, I try to give to them and not take from them. They don't have anything that I need, really. God is what I need. Christ is what I need. He provides for me. Everything else is for free and for fun, as long as Christ is in it. Yeah. Well, they removed, a good portion. Well, they removed my colon and some of my small intestine as well. And, but, I have these other illnesses or whatever. In fact, I was telling you earlier, the MS, the lupus, the COPD, all this other stuff I got going on, the arthritis, the diabetes, blah, 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 blah. My doctors will tell me, hey, we should be seeing you on rounds in the hospital. How are you living independently? And I tell them, well, it's because God's my doctor. God's my physician. You're just the helpers. And because they're all like, hey, you walk in here, nobody knows you're sick. Well, are they supposed to? That's not the point, because more than anything, I was spiritually sick. I was sick inside more than I was physically sick. And so, like I said, God allowed me to have these experiences so that I could tell his story. I'm just a piece of chalk. It's his story to tell. And then you'll be able to see it by the writing on the wall. I just have the experiences that I get to share and put forward. Seek your understanding of God. Take the information that's given to you, but seek the similarities. Look for, like I said, hey, you know what drew me closer is the people that were laughing and had genuine smiles because they were involved with Christ. They were willing to just be who they were, how they were, because they know that God made them perfect. You know what the best definition I've ever heard of perfect? Someone, something, or someplace being exactly what it is and exactly what it is not. And that's God. God knows. God made us perfect. He didn't make us all CEOs of some corporation. He didn't make us all the guy that's trying to get a beer at the drugstore. He made us all differently, but perfect in our own way. Why? So that we can serve each other and him. That's my purpose today. I live for my God, not for me. All your stuff's on the cross with him. He took it. Don't worry about it. Do the best you can. Live well. Prosper. All that good stuff. Thank you.